Some Caribbean islands look perfect from the cruise deck, but the moment you step beyond the port gates, the trip can change fast. Now, this ranking is not about fear, it's about smart cruising. We're looking at crime advisories, port safety, medical access, transport, storm disruption, crowd pressure, and how easy each island is for a short cruise stop. Some places are still worth visiting with the right plan. Others demand serious caution. And after the islands to avoid, we'll name 5 safer picks that give you beauty, stability, and a much smoother day ashore. Number 10, Cuba. Cuba is one of those Caribbean names that sounds romantic before you look at the practical side of the trip. Old streets, classic cars, music, history, and a kind of travel atmosphere that feels completely different from the standard cruise port beach day. But that's also the problem. Cuba is not a simple Caribbean stop for many travelers, especially Americans. The main concern is not that every visitor is in immediate danger. The concern is complexity. Travel rules can be confusing. Electrical outages can interrupt normal service. Supplies can be limited. Cash access can become awkward. And if something goes wrong, the comfort level is not the same as stepping into a polished private island cruise port. The U.S. State Department currently lists Cuba at Level 2, which means travelers should exercise increased caution, and it specifically mentions crime and unreliable electrical power. And for a cruise passenger, that matters because you only have a few hours on land. You don't have time for transport confusion, payment problems, or a tour that runs behind schedule. So Cuba is not an automatic never, but it is absolutely not a casual, low-effort island where you just walk off the ship and figure things out as you go. If you book it, you need clear paperwork, a verified tour, realistic expectations, and a backup plan. Number 9, Turks and Caicos. Now this one may surprise people because Turks and Caicos has one of the cleanest luxury images in the Caribbean. Grace Bay looks perfect. The water is calm, the resorts are polished, the whole place feels quiet, expensive, and controlled. But that does not mean it's forgiving. Turks and Caicos is small. That means fewer backup layers when something goes wrong. There's no large American embassy sitting on the island, and serious consular issues are handled through Embassy Nassau in the Bahamas. The U.S. advisory is Level 2, and it also warns travelers about strict enforcement of weapons and ammunition laws, even when the ammunition is accidental or left in luggage by mistake. That's important for cruise passengers and fly-in travelers because some people treat Caribbean destinations like the rules are relaxed. Turks and Caicos is not that kind of place. It's also expensive in a way that can catch travelers off guard. Food, taxis, drinks, excursions, beach clubs, and groceries often cost more than people expect because so much has to be imported. So this is not an island to avoid because it's chaotic. It's an island to avoid if you want flexibility, cheap prices, or a destination where small mistakes stay small. Turks and Caicos can be beautiful, but it rewards careful travelers, not careless ones. Number 8, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico feels familiar, and that's exactly why travelers sometimes underestimate it. You use U.S. dollars. Many phone plans work. San Juan has familiar shops, pharmacies, hotels, and restaurants. For many cruisers, it feels less like a foreign destination and more like a Caribbean extension of the mainland. But familiarity can hide real travel friction. Puerto Rico has dealt with long-running infrastructure strain, especially around the power grid after major hurricane damage. In tourist areas, hotels and larger businesses often have backup systems, but smaller businesses and neighborhoods may not have the same protection. And that matters on a cruise day because time is limited. If roads are delayed, a local service is down, or weather disrupts the schedule, your margin for error shrinks quickly. San Juan itself can be excellent. Old San Juan is one of the best cruise port walking areas in the region if you stay alert, watch your belongings, and avoid drifting too far without a plan. But outside the main tourist zones, the experience becomes less predictable. Puerto Rico is not a bad pick. It just should not be treated like Florida with prettier streets. Book the right excursion, stay realistic about transport and weather, and don't assume the whole island works with the same ease as the cruise terminal. Number 7. The Bahamas. The Bahamas is one of the easiest Caribbean trips to book, and that's exactly why it can become one of the most frustrating. For many cruisers, Nassau is the first port they ever visit. It's close to Florida, heavily marketed, and packed into short itineraries. But when several ships dock at once, the island can feel less like paradise and more like a crowded transfer point. Nassau Cruise Port welcomed a record 5.6 million cruise passengers in 2024, which tells you how much pressure moves through that port every year. That volume changes the experience. Taxi demand jumps. Beach clubs fill quickly. Restaurants near the port get crowded. Prices rise around convenience, and the closest tourist areas can feel overworked by late morning. The U.S. advisory for the Bahamas is level 2, and it says most crime occurs in Nassau and Freeport on New Providence and Grand Bahama. That does not mean you should panic. Many cruise passengers have smooth days there, but it does mean Nassau is not the place to wander randomly with jewelry, cash, and no return plan. The safest version is simple. Choose a reputable beach club, a ship excursion, or a verified private guide. The riskiest version is walking too far from the port corridor, accepting random offers, or assuming every taxi and every tour is equal. The Bahamas can be fun, but it's no longer a quiet secret. It's a high-volume cruise machine. Number 6. Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic is one of the Caribbean's biggest tourist machines, but the experience depends heavily on where you are. Inside a controlled resort area, it can feel smooth and organized. Punta Cana especially was built around tourism. The airport, highways, hotels, and excursions all work together to keep visitors moving inside a manageable bubble. But a cruise stop is different. If your ship calls at Amber Cove, Tiano Bay, La Romana, or Santo Domingo, you are not automatically getting the same insulated experience as someone staying in a gated all-inclusive. You may be moving through real roads, real towns, and transport systems that vary widely in quality. The U.S. advisory lists the Dominican Republic at level 2 and says violent crime remains a concern, even though tourist areas often have stronger policing. But the biggest mistake is assuming the whole country works like a resort lobby. Traffic can be aggressive. Road rules may feel loose compared to what many travelers are used to. Independent taxis can vary, and if you go too far from port without a clear plan, getting back on time becomes part of the stress. Now, this is not a destination you need to fear, but it's one where structure matters. Book a reliable excursion, use verified transportation, avoid flashing valuables, and don't turn a short port day into an improvised road trip. Number 5. Jamaica. Jamaica is one of the most loved islands in the Caribbean, but it's also one of the most misunderstood by cruise passengers. People hear Jamaica and think of beaches, music, food, waterfalls, and laid-back energy. All of that's real, but the safety picture is not something to ignore. The U.S. State Department currently lists Jamaica at level 2, after lowering it from a higher level, but the advisory still highlights crime, health, and natural disaster risks. It also says U.S. government employees are restricted from using public buses or driving between cities at night, and certain high-risk areas remain off-limits. So for a cruise passenger, that detail matters. Jamaica's not the island where you should casually get off the ship and make the plan at the gate. Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, and Falmouth can all produce excellent cruise days. Dunn's River Falls, beach resorts, food tours, and cultural stops can be memorable when they're organized properly. But the difference between a good day and a stressful one is planning. Do not use random transportation. Don't wander far outside tourist corridors, and don't bring flashy jewelry. Don't assume a friendly offer at the port is automatically safe, and do not cut your return time too close. Jamaica's not an island to fear, It's an island to respect. The best version of Jamaica is structured, local, energetic, and beautiful. The worst version starts when a traveler mistakes confidence for a plan. Number 4. Grenada. Grenada is not the loudest name in the Caribbean, and that's part of its appeal. It feels greener, quieter, and more natural than some of the bigger cruise islands. Hills rise behind the coast. Roads twist inland. Smaller hotels, villas, and boutique stays gives the island a more authentic feel, but that also creates the concern. Grenada does not have the same dense tourism machine as Nassau, Aruba, or Grand Cayman. Now that means fewer crowds, but also fewer backup layers. In January 2026, the U.S. advisory for Grenada was raised to level 2 because of crime, and the advisory notes that police response times may not be as fast as travelers expect in the United States. That matters because Grenada's layout is spread out. Some properties sit on hillsides or quieter roads. Some beaches and viewpoints feel peaceful because they're not surrounded by heavy development. But after dark, that same quiet can feel different. For cruise passengers, Grenada can still be a beautiful port. The spice markets, waterfalls, beaches, and scenery are real highlights. But this is not the island for an unplanned adventure deep inland with an unknown driver. Go with a reviewed operator. Stay aware at viewpoints and isolated beaches. Avoid walking alone at night. And remember that less touristy is not always the same as easier. Grenada's beauty is slower and quieter. That's the charm, but it's also the reason you need a plan. Number 3. Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is one of the strongest caution entries on this list. Now, this is not because the country has no beauty or culture. It has plenty. Trinidad has energy, food, carnival history, music, and a deeper urban identity than many smaller islands. Tobago has beaches, reefs, and a more relaxed travel image. But from a cruise safety perspective, the current advisory is serious. The U.S. State Department lists Trinidad and Tobago at level 3, which means reconsider travel due to crime, health, and terrorism. The advisory also says the government declared a nationwide state of emergency on March 2, 2026, after a spike in violent criminal activity. Now, that's not a small warning. For cruise passengers, the key issue is not whether someone can have a good experience there. Some travelers do. The issue is whether this is the kind of island where a short, casual port day makes sense without structure. It does not. Now, this is a destination where you should not wander independently, should not accept random transportation, and should not treat the city like a beach village. If your itinerary includes it, the safest move is a cruise line excursion or a highly reputable local operator with clear timing and route control. Trinidad and Tobago is not a simple postcard stop. It's a real country with real urban risk, and that requires a different level of caution. Number 2. Haiti and Labadee. Haiti belongs near the top of this list because this is where the cruise-specific warnings become impossible to ignore. For years, many cruisers saw Labadee as separate from Haiti itself. It was marketed as a private beach destination, controlled by the cruise line with beaches, water activities, food areas, and a fenced-off resort feel. But private does not mean disconnected from the broader security environment. The U.S. State Department currently lists Haiti at level 4, do not travel, because of crime, terrorism, kidnapping, unrest, and limited health care. It also notes that Haiti has been under a national state of emergency since March 2024. For cruise passengers, the bigger signal is what Royal Caribbean has done. Royal Caribbean states that all visits to Labadee are suspended for the remainder of 2026 while it continues to monitor the situation with its security team. Now that tells you everything. When a cruise line removes its own private destination from schedules, the average traveler should not be more confident than the company's security department. Now, this does not mean Labadee was the same as the most dangerous parts of Haiti. It means the wider situation made normal operations too risky or too uncertain. So for now, Haiti is not a maybe if the price is good destination. It's a clear avoid for cruise planning until the security picture changes in a meaningful way. Number 1. Any Caribbean island during a major storm window. The number one island to avoid is not just one island. It's any Caribbean island you book blindly during a risky weather window because the photo looked calm. Cruisers sometimes underestimate this because ships can reroute, and yes, that's one advantage of cruising. If a storm threatens one port, the cruise line may replace it with another port or add a sea day, but that does not mean storms do not affect your trip. Ports close, excursions get canceled, flights home can be delayed. Smaller islands can lose power or normal services. Beaches can be covered in debris, and water conditions can become unsafe even after the sky clears. The mistake's not traveling during hurricane season. Plenty of people do it and have great success. The mistake is booking as if the itinerary is guaranteed. If you're sailing during storm season, you need travel insurance, flexible expectations, and a clear understanding that the port you paid for may not be the port you get. This is why the smartest cruiser does not only ask, "Is the island beautiful?" They ask, "What happens if the plan changes?" Because the most stressful Caribbean stop is not always the most dangerous one. Sometimes it's the one you booked with no backup plan at all. Now, safe pick number 1, St. Kitts and Nevis. Now let's move to the safer picks, starting with St. Kitts and Nevis. This is one of the most manageable cruise stops in the Caribbean. It's small, calm, and easier to understand than many high-pressure ports. Basse-Terre feels compact rather than overwhelming, and the island gives you scenery, beaches, history, and quiet roads without the same level of crowd chaos. The U.S. advisory lists St. Kitts and Nevis at level 1, which means exercise normal precautions. For a cruiser, that's exactly the kind of baseline you want. You still need common sense. You still need to watch your belongings and book smart transportation. But the island does not feel like it's constantly working against you. The only real caution is scale. Medical facilities are not as deep as larger destinations, and flight options are more limited if something serious happens. But for a normal cruise day, St. Kitts and Nevis offer one of the best combinations of beauty, calm, and simplicity. Safe pick number 2, Barbados. Barbados is a strong safe pick because it feels organized. The roads, resorts, restaurants, and public spaces generally have a more structured rhythm than many Caribbean destinations. For cruise passengers, that matters because you could step off the ship and feel like the island knows how to handle visitors without losing its own identity. And Barbados is currently listed at level 1 by the U.S. State Department. But safe does not mean careless. You should still watch for petty theft in tourist areas. Avoid leaving bags unattended on beaches and respect local laws. And one rule travelers often miss is camouflage clothing. In Barbados, camouflage is reserved for the military, and visitors should not pack it. Now, the other caution is the ocean. The west coast is usually calmer, while parts of the Atlantic-facing side can have stronger currents. So Barbados is not perfect, but it's polished, stable, and easier to navigate than many islands on a short cruise stop. Safe pick number 3, Curaçao. Curaçao is one of the best Caribbean choices for travelers who want more than a beach. Willemstad gives you color, architecture, food, shopping, and a real city atmosphere close to the cruise area. It does not feel like a fake tourist village built only for ships. It feels like an actual place with history and structure. Curaçao is listed at level 1 by the U.S. State Department. And another advantage is weather. Curaçao sits outside the main hurricane belt, so direct storm disruption is less common than in many northern Caribbean ports. The main thing to know is that the best beaches are often not right beside the ship. Many are smaller coves that require a drive, stairs, or a more deliberate plan. And that makes Curaçao safer for the prepared traveler than the lazy one. If you want to wander the town, it works beautifully. If you want a beach day, Arrange transport ahead of time and know exactly where you're going. Safe pick number 4, Cayman Islands. Grand Cayman is one of the easiest safe picks in the Caribbean. It's clean, orderly, well-regulated, and calm in a way that many cruise passengers notice immediately. The roads feel more predictable. The public spaces feel well-maintained. The tourism system feels mature rather than improvised. And the Cayman Islands are listed at level 1 by the U.S. State Department. Now, for cruisers, the appeal is simple. You can do 7 Mile Beach, Stingray City, snorkeling, shopping, or a quieter food stop without feeling like the island is pushing you into chaos. But there are 2 catches. First, Grand Cayman is expensive. Food, taxis, excursions, and beach access can cost more than expected. Second, many cruise calls require tendering, which means smaller boats take passengers from ship to shore. If sea conditions are rough, the port can be missed. Still, for safety-conscious travelers, Grand Cayman is one of the Caribbean's strongest choices. And safe pick number 5, Aruba. Aruba takes the top safe pick because it gives cruisers what they actually want: predictability. The island is beautiful, but beauty is not the only reason it wins. Aruba is easy to understand. The roads are good. English is widely spoken. U.S. dollars are accepted in many places. Tourism is organized. And because Aruba sits outside the main hurricane belt, weather disruptions is generally less of a concern than in many other Caribbean destinations. Aruba is listed at level 1 by the U.S. State Department. For a cruise passenger, that combination matters. You can plan a beach day, an island tour, a walk through Oranjestad, or a simple lunch stop without feeling like every decision carries a hidden complication. Now, it's not the cheapest island. Aruba can be expensive, especially around major beaches and tourist corridors, but you're often paying for reliability. And that is why Aruba lands at number 1. Now, some islands are exciting because they feel unpredictable. Aruba is valuable because it does not. For most cruisers, especially first-timers, older travelers, or families, or anyone who wants a smooth day ashore, that kind of calm is hard to beat. So the Caribbean is still one of the best cruise regions in the world, but the smartest travelers know every island is not the same. Choose ports with real planning, not just pretty photos. Now, if this helped, like and subscribe before your next sailing. Travel calmer, move smarter, and enjoy the journey. Your voyage is just beginning.